Hey there, let me ask you an honest question. When was the last time you had someone in your life that you could call, sit down with, tell them the truth about how you're really doing? Because if we're honest, a lot of us have gotten really good at solving problems for other people. We're good at handling responsibilities, and we're even good at showing up for people. But on the inside, many of us are carrying weights, and we're finding that our lives are becoming very singularly alone. We're isolated. And the longer we do that, the easier it becomes to mistake that isolation for strength. Hey, this is Ken, and this is Life Moves with Ken. On this channel, we talk about what it actually looks like for men to move forward with intention, but not through hype, not through quick fixes, but through discipline, direction, and the patterns that shape who we really become over time. Because life is gonna move no matter what. The question is, are we gonna move with it? And so today, we're gonna have a chit chat about one of the areas that many of us are dealing with. If we wanna put a frame around it, what we would really call it would be loneliness. And I don't know if loneliness is actually the right word. Maybe the real word is isolation. And the reason I say that is because loneliness sounds like being by yourself. But isolation, that's different, because what happens when we isolate ourselves, it's when we carry life alone for so long that it starts to seem normal. And the scary part is that most of us don't even see that it's happening. So today, that's what we're gonna talk about. When it comes to isolation, you don't wake up and decide you're gonna become isolated. What happens is life just keeps moving. You go to work and you take care of your family. You even handle whatever needs to be handled. And years pass, months pass, time passes, and responsibilities pile up. And somewhere in the middle of your life, we start to let people go. Not on purpose, it just happens. And researchers have actually found that men today have fewer close friendships than previous generations. And many men say that they don't really have anyone that they can call, someone that they can turn to when life gets hard. And what's interesting, what the research also shows is that that impact goes beyond relationships. Isolation has been connected to higher levels of stress, higher levels of anxiety, depression, heart disease, and even a shorter lifespan. So this conversation isn't just about, oh, let's go make some friends. Most isolated men don't even look isolated. They look responsible. They look dependable. They look like you and me, successful guys who everybody leans on. But isolation isn't really the absence of people, it's the absence of being known. And so I think one of the biggest misconceptions we have is that we don't need connections. But I don't think that that's true. And I've found that that's not true in my own life. I think you and I both want connections as much as anyone else. And the difference is that we may have learned how to live without it. And so the truth is you have a desire to be known. We have an innate desire for other people to be close to us. We don't just want to be admired or respected. We want to be known. We want someone who understands what we're going through and what we're carrying without having to explain every detail. And we all are looking for that somebody who notices when we're struggling, somebody who celebrates us when things are going well, and somebody who we can sit across the table from and just be honest with them. Someone who is willing to hear it for what it is. And somewhere along the line, many of us have mislearned that handling things on your own is a strength, but our deepest desire is to be known. Here's what I found. With responsibility, a dangerous thing comes along with it. That responsibility, at times, it can help us to convince ourselves that we have to carry everything by ourselves. When I'm responsible, I'm carrying things alone. And that's the trap. Responsibility is not about carrying things on your own. We don't stop wanting connection just because we're responsible. You stop believing that you're allowed to have it. And so what we do is we end up taking on greater responsibility without having people around us, a group of trusted advisors who we can lean on in those difficult times. And the reality is this: we were all created for connection. Deep down, we want connections, but sometimes we hesitate to pursue it. And so it's because that pursuing of connection, it creates vulnerability. It requires honesty. It requires letting someone see parts of your life that many of us have spent years trying to hide, trying to manage, or trying to mask. And what we're really looking for is not more people in our life. What we're looking for is a place where we can be fully known and still be fully accepted. The hard thing about isolation is that it becomes normal. You get used to handling things on your own, and you stop expecting anyone to really understand what you're carrying. And after a while, you stop expecting anyone to really understand what you're carrying. And after a while, we stop questioning whether that even makes sense, whether it's even healthy. And one of the clearest signs of isolation is that you stop letting people in. You talk about what you're doing. You talk about what's happening, but you're not really talking about what you're carrying. You've become accustomed to carrying things alone rather than reaching out. And that starts to feel normal. And what becomes abnormal is reaching out and sharing with others. But isolation is not something you break overnight. It's something you interrupt. The move is honesty. It's about being honest enough to admit to others that, hey, you know what? I need some help carrying things in my life. It's about being honest enough to acknowledge that you can't handle it on your own and that you need a connection. I have this guy in my life, good guy in my life, who I reached out to the other day. And after the call was over and we were chit-chatting and all that, I was like, dude, you know what? I really appreciate you for being there. And he was like, hey, you know, we all need somebody, because I have my moments where I'm just wilding out. And I laugh because the reality is that when he's wilding out, it's okay to me. And he feels comfortable being that way. And when I'm wilding out, he feels no big deal about it. It's not a big deal to him. I can just be myself. And so what I've discovered is that I don't need 30 people like this. I just need one or two. And I have some folk here, and I have some folk back in the city that I used to live in who I trust, who I can just be myself with. And for men, the truth is this. Here's the truth. You can be isolated, but you don't have to be. Here's the move. Just acknowledge that you don't want to live life alone anymore. And so as we acknowledge that issue, then what we do is we do the life move. So here's what the move is going to be. The move is really small. It's probably smaller than you would even expect. So here's what I'm going to ask you guys to do as we start this journey into moving beyond isolation. This week, I'm not asking you to rebuild your entire social life, because that's crazy. You don't need all of those people in your life. You don't have 500 Facebook friends. You don't have a community of people on YouTube or Instagram who actually know you. What really happens is that we have about 3 or 4 people in our lives that we need who will know us. And so what I'm asking you to do is to reach out to one of them. Think about that person who crossed your mind when I was telling you my story. And think about that friend that you haven't talked to in a while. And maybe it's that guy from the basketball league you used to be in. Maybe it's the person from the club you used to be a part of. Maybe it's that guy from church you've always been meaning to call. Here's the move. Pick up the phone and call them. Just reach out and ask them how they're doing. And then when they ask you how you're doing, you just literally just say what it really is. That former coworker you genuinely enjoyed being around, somehow lost touch with them, they want to know how you are. Don't think about it. Don't make it hard. Just reach out. And even if that reach out is a text message, go ahead and reach out. Connection has to begin somewhere. And so if isolation can grow through small moments of disconnection, perhaps connection can grow through these small moments of reaching out in the opposite direction. And so it starts with one text message, one cup of coffee, one conversation that reminds you that you're not as alone as you've convinced yourself you are. We're not trying to solve everything. We're just simply interrupting the pattern. And what we found is that when we create new patterns in our mind, whether that new pattern is starting something new, whether that new pattern is aggressively chasing after a goal, or whether that pattern is interrupting the isolation that many of us feel, it's small steps taken over time that become the new thing that we are, the new brain process that we have. And so go ahead and take that first step. Hey guys, I don't have a lot more to share, but I can tell you this. If you're feeling isolated and if you're feeling by yourself, there is someone out there who absolutely is looking for you to reach out to them. Whoever that person is, go ahead and make that call. You'd be surprised. They probably are looking for the same thing that you're looking for. And here's, I guess, the thing that I really want you to understand about this. It doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you're creating a problem or that you have a problem. It just means that you've learned how to live in isolation. And so that's not the life that we want to live, because a man who's making life moves is a man who has influence on others, but also a man who's influenced by others. That's why you're here, so that we can work together. And so if this helped you out, subscribe to Life Moves with Ken. Hit that like and subscribe, not because I have all the answers and not because this channel is about fixing your life in 10 easy steps. But if this conversation helped you put words to things that you've been carrying, and if this helped you a little bit down the road of figuring out what you want to have out of your life, then go ahead. Be part of the community and join with us as we're making life moves. As I say all the time, you're not starting over, you're just starting from here. And this channel is about helping men make moves forward with intention, one step at a time. Because as we keep saying, life is gonna move whether we move with it or not, but we wanna be the ones moving. So welcome to Life Moves with Ken. I say it all the time. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.